So to set the scene for the viewer, how does somebody go from 20 stone to 6.5 stone and winning your first ever bodybuilding competition? So welcome back to the Talking Rightly podcast. In today's episode, we are discussing the female bodybuilding culture and quite a significant transformation, if I do say so myself. Welcome to the podcast, Micheala.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. You?
Very good, thank you. So let's get straight into it. So to set the scene for the viewer, at the start of your journey, you were a lot bigger than you are today, for sure.
Yeah.
So at your heaviest, how big were you?
At my heaviest, I was 20 stone.
And how? Give me a snapshot of your life at that point. Like how did you get to that size? What was life like? Because I know, obviously, when we've been discussing the episode in the background, life was pretty difficult leading up to that weight gain. So how did that start?
So it started after my daughter died, and I just found a really big comfort in food, and it just kind of progressed, and I just kept eating more, and then I'd go to bed, and I'd still be eating. I'd just be eating family bars of chocolate, multi-packs of crisps. I'd go downstairs, I'd start eating there, and it just progressed from there.
So was that like constant throughout the day then?
Constant.
Yeah.
Like I'd go over to Lidl's, I'd go into the pastry bit, and I'd just buy a whole bag and just go home and eat them.
Were you getting anything out of it, like enjoyment, or was it just like an endorphin rush or anything like that?
No, it was just more trying to fill a void than anything.
Yeah.
It was just like a bottomless pit. There was nothing that would just fill it.
Prior to you going through what you went through, I know you suffered an accident, didn't you? And it
Yes.
sounds incredibly traumatic what you went through. But prior to going through that, had you struggled with your weight, with diet? You know, was that problem in your life before the accident?
So before the accident, I actually went both ways. I started younger and I was anorexic, and then I started eating and people would tell me I looked better, so that naturally meant that I ate more, and it just kind of stemmed there. And I think when you're depressed then and people are already telling you that you look better because you're bigger, your brain stops registering it. So you just think, oh, well, if I keep eating, I'll get bigger and I'll still look better.
And so it just gradually got worse and worse and worse. And I know that when we've been discussing things, you said that when you went through the accident, I think understandably you suffered significant PTSD. Is that right? And the depression went on for quite a long time in your life. And you said that you didn't find that the way doctors approached helping you was necessarily the best fit.
No, it was awful. They couldn't fix the root cause. There was no way around it. They couldn't say, well, if we fix this part of your life, that's going to make this aspect easier. There was no real way around it.
What were they offering you at that time?
Sleeping tablets and antidepressants.
And what fascinated me when we were discussing this is the number of tablets you were taking a day. I mean, at that point, how many were you taking a day?
Just shy of 40.
That's how much tablets they were prescribing you.
Every single solitary day.
But did they have like a reasoning behind it? Like, what was the logic of, prescribing that amount of tablets?
So originally they thought that I had fibromyalgia, depression, a form of restless legs, and a few other things in with it. So they thought that if they treated all those elements, that maybe that would help. But it increased the weight gain because all of the medications they were giving me made you want to eat more.
I can absolutely relate to that.
Yeah,
because when I started taking antidepressants earlier last year, the same thing happened to me, significant weight gain.
Yeah.
And it's hard, isn't it? Because I suppose on one hand, if you're finding the positive benefit of it, kind of, for me, it just stopped like racing thoughts and slowed my mind down a little bit. I mean, I wasn't going for what you were going through. And like the weight gain wasn't as significant. I maybe put on a stone or something, but it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there on medication.
Yeah.
And that side effect is like, it's so detrimental in the long term, isn't it? Because as we all know, as people who are very crazy about our fitness, it's such a staple part of you having good mental health, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I can imagine when you were going through that, I assume you weren't exercising.
No, not at all. I would have laughed if you told me to go to the gym.
Yeah. And
so that's a good point there. Like, I still think like anything regarding like mental health, I just can't get my head around why doctors aren't prescribing, rather than medicine, why are they not prescribing exercise?
It's a difficult thing to prescribe, though, because you think, as we're going to go into, the challenges of somebody actually getting up and physically going to the gym, that could be an enormous barrier in some people's life.
Well, that's a good point. Were you a gym person before all of this? No. Or like a sporty person?
Nothing
Play sports?
at all. I'd never even walked in a gym.
So when you had anorexia, that was your teenage years, yeah? And that, at that point, still there was no form of exercise, wasn't prominent in your life at all?
No.
Right, okay.
How do you think you would have responded, though, if, let's just say the doctor prescribed you with like an exercise plan? Do you think you would have got on board with that at that time? Or
Yeah, because you get sick of literally just waking up to handfuls of tablets and just, at one point it literally felt like a snack.
Yeah.
There were just so many tablets that you get sick of seeing the sight of it every day.
Do you think the tabs were doing anything for you, like mentally?
No.
So they weren't making you feel better or worse?
No.
At no point did you feel they had a positive influence in your life?
None. I think I had so many reactions from him. At one point, I couldn't open my eyes because my eyes were just so swollen.
Yeah.
My face was constantly broken out. So it was just adding to the depression, because now not only was I big and getting bigger, I also didn't like how I looked.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I suppose the reason why I asked is I have no positive influence, because going back to myself, when I have taken them, and I wasn't taking anywhere near the amount of tablets you were on, plus what I've been through wasn't of the same nature at all, but they did have a positive influence in my life. So I guess people have just got to weigh it up in their own life, and hopefully you are getting the right medical advice. But to move on past that point, what sparked the weight loss? Because you get to 20 stone, right? And I'm sure there's people that are listening to this that they may have been through a similar weight increase in their own life. They may be, 20 stone. They may be, similar to that weight. How on earth, what started that journey? What was the spark?
It sounds really stupid, but I was literally sat in bed with about 4 bars of chocolate watching Joe Rogan and Kevin Smith podcast. And he started talking about his heart attack and the effect it had had on his family. And that he was sat there and he didn't even know he was having a heart attack. And I just kind of looked down and I thought, oh my God, that's going to be me. I'm going to be having a heart attack and I'm not even going to know it. And that was it. I grabbed the bars of chocolate, I put them in the bin. I thought, well, tomorrow, if I put that £1 a day that I've just spent on all this, I could go join the gym over the road instead. And that's what I did. Everything went in the bin, right down to the cigarettes. It just all went.
That's crazy. So you went cold turkey on
completely
all of it.
And see, this is what fascinates me probably most about your story, past the fact that you've done all the bodybuilding shows, which we'll go into, and your journey now where you're crazy obsessed with it. You've managed to go cold turkey on something that you obviously got up to quite a substantial weight and clearly weren't in a great place. How on earth does somebody do that overnight? And I'm not suggesting like I couldn't do that. There's
I don't think most people could.
It's really weird though, because since we had that chat, I spoke to a couple of people that have been successful in their fitness journeys, and they all did the same thing. They were just sat there, they were watching something, they were doing something, and something just clicked, and they were like, no, it's now. I have to do this now.
So they've just had that moment.
They've just had that one moment where that switch has flicked, and they've been like, this is it. This is my time now.
Yeah, but I still feel like, I don't know. I haven't conducted like a survey or anything, but in my head, like from who I know, in the small circle I know, I don't know many people who could still do that. I think they're a minority.
Oh, well, for sure. What you've done, yeah, definitely. But then bodybuilding's a minority, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
You know, we go to the gym, but we're not bodybuilders, are we?
No, you're still thin.
Right? I thought we've been in the podcast a little while now, and you haven't abused me, so I thought, we need to get one in there, don't we? No, but you're right. I mean, what you've done is definitely in the minority. You've got ADHD, yeah,
Yes.
and you said that you've got like hyperfixation, and I suppose when you look through your journey, you don't seem to be somebody who does things in small measures. Like even when I assume when like you had the anorexia, that at that point did it sort of take over your life to a degree?
Completely.
And then your life kind of flips on the other side, and then you had significant weight gain, understandably so given the circumstances, and then you've then flipped it on its head again, and now your whole life is driven around bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Would you agree then that you do everything to the extreme? Because that's
100%. There is nothing else in between.
But you're an example, I think, of where ADHD and where I said this, didn't I, when we were planning it, in that, especially when you go through school, there seems to be this negative perspective. Well, we have this negative perspective prescribed to us, I think, in schools, or in the workplace, wherever. That it's not always a good thing. But you're an example of how it's like a superpower. Like you've managed to use it and that hyperfixation to like achieve, like you've achieved some incredible things, and you seem like somebody who's really you just seem so passionate and driven and motivated to like chase your dreams. And I feel like hence why I wanted you to come on the podcast to share some of that story. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose it's nice to have that perspective for people to see.
So it's a positive outlook on ADHD, because like you said, it's got a lot of sort of like negative labels around it, especially like you said, especially in school. You're kind of like the write-off, like this person can't be taught because they can't concentrate. But like you said, in Micheala's situation, she's harnessed that and gone, okay, let's throw all this into bodybuilding, and she's won her first competition. So it just shows it can. But you got to be able to harness that. I think that's what people would struggle with.
But I think when you find something that you truly, truly love, and you fit so well, like everybody has got the same quirks as you, everybody is just as meticulous, you're like, oh, this is amazing, I finally belong.
Yeah, that's a good point. So just going back to like the weight loss, so you had that moment watching that Joe Rogan podcast. You said you then joined the gym, right?
I did. I walked down into the charity shop. I bought myself a pair of second-hand trainers because I didn't even own a pair.
Yeah.
I bought myself a pair of jogging bottoms and a massive t-shirt. And I thought, right, me and my best friend, we were like, let's go in. And we both went in together, and we were like, should we try a class? Should we just jump in this class? And that was it.
How did it feel though first going in? Did you have any like anxiety or?
I wasn't actually sure if I was going to be sick at that point.
Really?
Yeah, because everywhere you looked, obviously, everyone was in shape. Everyone was doing this. There was people doing calisthenics. There were people lifting massive weights. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. What's that machine even do?
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And I think that's one thing, like, as gym users, we kind of take for granted, is knowing how to work all the machines. Because, like, if you've never trained before...
You still can't use all of them.
And you're still not getting any gains on them.
Sorry. No, let's not get onto that.
Throw grenades.
No, let's not get into that.
RPG comes out.
Let's not get into that. Come on, sorry.
But the point was, so we take that for granted because we've been doing it since like sixth form or whatever. versus like the average member of the public that doesn't train. Of course, everything's going to look alien. You're going to feel like an idiot trying to, work out what the machine does, actually how to get on it, how to do it in the correct form. I would imagine all of that was sort of running through your head the first few times you went there.
It was quite funny because me and my friend, we were like literally going around there and they were trying to show us what to do.
Yeah.
But it's weird how quickly you go back into like acting like a child mode. So every time they were trying to like show us something, we were just in fits of laughter. So I'd be like, no, you go on there first. No, you go on there first. And we were just howling the whole way around.
Well, that makes sense. A lot of it does look a bit silly as well. Like when you actually think about it, some of the things you do in the gym, because it's all alien to you, if you haven't used it before, it can feel a bit silly, can't it?
Well, like 100%. I can remember 5-6 years ago, I took one of my friends to the gym, and he'd never really he'd always wanted to go to the gym. He just never really did it. And then, so we went in there the first time, and I was just teaching him the basics, and it shocked me, right? Because he was, what would I have been? We were like, it was quite a while ago. We were like 25, 26, and he couldn't do a bodyweight squat. Like when he went to squat, he just couldn't squat, and I was like, wow, like that was alien to me. I was like, so forget putting a bar on his back or getting on a machine. He couldn't even do a bodyweight squat, and I think you're right. We do take it for granted. I think if somebody's completely new going in there, it's the same as like when I've started doing this MMA training. You go in and you feel like a child again, because you're like you're learning something completely new. You're looking around and everyone else can do it, and I suppose hence why I was saying earlier about the doctor just prescribing exercise. It's not possible though, is it?
No, it's not.
Because do you know what I mean? Like you just say, "Oh, go to the gym." It's just simple. It's way too simple, isn't it? And I get that, the other thing is it doesn't fix everyone. It's not going to fix everyone's problems. It's, for us, it's fantastic. But if it was going to fix everyone's problems, then everyone would go.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not, I still am a believer of that the gym is for everyone, but it's just in different dosages. Like,
or fitness.
Yeah.
Fitness.
Like, Micheala would be to the extreme for some people, but I'm sure you think like that's your normality, right?
100%.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of people would probably look at her and go, oh, that's extreme, because they're living like a sedentary lifestyle, or they're just, a casual gym goer who, goes in there, does 20 minutes or whatever.
When I've quizzed Micheala on what she does, I think she's extreme.
Yeah.
And I go to the gym 6 days a week, but I do think she does take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
And I suppose let's kind of dial into, how did you actually lose the weight?
Extreme exercise. Literally, I was running half marathons every week. I was in the gym, sometimes 3 classes a day, plus then starting to learn weights in between. I would say I was honestly in the gym for about 7 hours a day, and then I'd go back in the night then to do a spin class.
Did your friend stay with you, or did they?
She still comes to and from shreds with me now and then.
So she still trains with you then, yeah. Did she think? Bodybuilding is
not for her.
She's
openly said, she said, I could do a lot of things, but bodybuilding is not my thing.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, was she tagging along for those 7-hour sessions, or was she just
she used to come to a lot of the spin classes and all with me, yeah, but she left the gym that we were currently in and obviously switched to shreds then.
Yeah.
But to be fair to her, it's not her world, but she's there every step of the way.
Yeah, fair.
I think she just loves the stupid things you do on prep.
How important at that point was patience?
So important, because I think we all forget just how long it takes to put on that weight.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a lot of people now will say to me, "Oh, well, it's easy for you." It might be easy now, but it still took 5 years. I still had to be patient, and I had to wait it out for that 5 years to see what I was doing. There was no shortcuts, and I think everybody is so guilty of seeing the after that they forget the before.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, when you first sent me a picture of you at your biggest, I was like, I didn't believe it was you, because you don't look like the same person. So it's just almost like, wow, like that is an incredible journey. And the reason I asked how important was patience is because I agree. I think if people don't see results in a month, 2 months, very often they'll get back onto their previous routines. Do you know what I mean? They'll go back to bad habits, and they'll be like, it's hard to say, you know. That's why I always say to people, you have to, as cheesy as it sounds, you have to want the journey. You can't just want the destination. Like you have to learn, like find whatever it is in a fitness sense that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like for example, some people absolutely love running. Like I'm not overly keen on it. I do it every now and then, but it's not like some people get up and they're fucking running, like you said, running half marathons every week. That'd be a form of torture for me. But for some people, that's like their weekly orgasm. Do you know what I mean?
But it's one of those, and I think when you've been big for so long,
but it is.
Moving on. Yeah, but that's why I said I think exercise is for everyone, and people like we have some friends from school that disregard exercise, and it's like everyone wants to live longer, but they don't want to put in like the little efforts each day, like even just a 20-minute walk, something like that. So like my mate's mum, he was saying that she's like gained quite a bit of weight. He's worried now because he was saying about like the age of like her mother and her mother's mother. They all kind of died at a similar age, and they were both kind of living like a sedentary lifestyle, not very active. And I was just saying to him, like, even if you could encourage her just to do like a 20-minute walk, you're going to get longevity out of life. You're going to be more mobile as you age. And it's, you know, 20 minutes a day, like out of 24 hours, it's not a lot, but I guess you've got to measure it with that person's ability. But if they could just do that and then do that consistently, I think they would get what they want, because too many people want it too quickly. Like you said, they want it now. They don't realize it took you like 5 years to get to where you were, but they want it now. But they do those little steps that, you know, slowly it will happen.
But I think if you start off with a 20-minute walk, after a certain amount of time, if you were to take that walk away from somebody, they'd be like, oh my God, I don't feel myself today.
Exactly.
And after a couple of days, they'd be like, I didn't feel myself because I didn't do that aspect.
Yeah.
And then I think they would naturally just want to go.
But one thing that really interested me when we were talking about your journey is Jeff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jeff.
So I met Jeff in lockdown.
Who is Jeff?
Jeff is, well, he was a bodybuilder, and he was working in Portishead Gym. He'd come over for a radio interview when it was lockdown.
Right.
And it was just to promote reopening of the gyms. And I was like, oh, right, okay. I had a little chat with him. And then I came back after lockdown and he was like, have you ever thought about doing bodybuilding? And I laughed at him. I actually thought he was having me on. I thought it was the biggest joke in the world. And after a couple of weeks, he was like, go on, maybe if you just did one show, just do one prep and do one show and let's see how it goes. He was like, because I'm telling you, you've got something. I thought, what? Because we just come out of lockdown. I thought, it's going to take me a good 6 months now just to get back into the swing of the gym. So I was like, right, okay, if I agree to do one, he was like, okay, we'll agree to do one. And yeah, he's kind of just been there literally, I would say, every single day ever since.
And I think that whole story is a great example of, you know, without Customato, you don't get Mike Tyson. Without Mr. Miyagi, you get no Karate Kid. Like everyone needs a mentor to some degree, or a coach, or not necessarily a coach, but if you're going to achieve anything significant in life, I think you need someone helping you. It's like that first point. Have you ever thought about bodybuilding? No, you hadn't, and it seemed alien to you. Whereas now, it's like your everyday. It's what you eat, sleep, and breathe it. But without Jeff asking that first question, you don't get all those medals in your living room right now, or trophies. You don't. That's none of that. None of that's there without Jeff asking that question. So, Jeff is pivotal in your story. So if you're watching, Jeff, congratulations, mate. I'm sure you will.
Shout out Jeff.
Shout out Jeff.
Big Jeff.
But that for anybody, I think, you know, it's helpful to.
Yeah.
We've said that before, haven't we?
Well, it's that classic. You know, you can't be what you can't see, and obviously Jeff saw something in Micheala which she didn't see in herself, but now that's surfaced. Now, she can now see it. Like, she's had success off the back of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes in life, you kind of need something, you know, like an outside perspective to go, oh, I can see something, but you can't see it, but I'm going to show you. And then at the end of the process, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to be like, yeah, like, I actually become that. And that could be anything. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. It could be anything.
And if I'm right, to thank Jeff, you now fill in with cakes and
Yes, I do.
donuts.
Every single day.
You're
Like
a
this
big
weekend,
baker, aren't you?
Massive baker. So this week now he wants a lemon cake and a carrot cake.
Yeah.
So we've agreed to just like, if we make loaf cakes, they can just go in one box and keep each other company.
So this is how you thank him for you getting. He helped
Yeah.
you get in shape. You're helping him.
You're giving
I'm
him
helping in
diabetes.
Bulk.
I'm helping in bulk. He wants to get to 85 kilos. It's my life mission now.
Well, I'm sure with all that cake you'll get there. Let's talk bodybuilding, right? So you go through the weight loss journey, you meet your Mr. Miyagi, Jeff, and how did you get to your first show? Talk me through that journey.
So I signed up with Team Bikini Queens, which
Yeah.
is my coach now. And I don't know if you know Kate Errington. She was married to Terry Holland.
Wow. Okay.
She was giving me posing lessons at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? So they were like, well, actually, do you know what? I think maybe you need to put in for this show, but it's only 12 weeks away. But it's the first timers. So I was like, okay, we'll do that then. So yeah, along that way then I had Kate Errington in tow, my coach and Jeff, and we just went for it. Like,
and I suppose
back.
given your hyperfixation and the fact you're so crazy focused on things, I suppose all the dieting and the having to do so many lose so many calories a day of cardio and all that sort of stuff. I guess was it difficult or?
I loved it.
Exactly.
Every single minute, like especially when I got to do all my food and like line all my little Tupperware pots out.
Rice and a fish cake.
Rice and a fish cake.
Don't even mention fish to me.
But everyone, I mean, everyone. Let's go back to that point where you said that you were struggling with the depression, right? And the Joe Rogan and Kevin Smith podcast day where you sat there with the 4 bars of chocolate. If we show Micheala winning her first ever show, if we could show that moment to you at 20 stone in that lying in bed watching that podcast, would you ever have believed that was possible?
Not in a million years. Like I would say 3/4 time I wake up now and I still cannot believe that this is my life.
And one thing that I was just like, wow, when we met the other day and we're discussing this, is that you, to your own explanation, you don't struggle with depression at all now? You don't take any medication?
Nothing.
And I've got to be honest, whenever I see you, you do remind me of like a happy little bunny. You seem to be bouncing around everywhere, and you give off such happy,
it's like positive energy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because when you've been sad for a really, really long time, tell me something better than just walking past somebody and smiling at them and them smiling back and think to yourself, wonder if anybody else smiled at you today. Or just making somebody happy or making someone laugh.
Is that why you make the cake?
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think, I can relate to some of that, but not to the degree of what you've been through. So, and I'm also nowhere near as a happy, crazy bunny as you are. You're like Bugs Bunny on steroids. That's actually not a bad explanation of it. Although you're not on steroids, we are going to get into steroids. All right, show day then, right? So you've eaten all the fish and done the hours on the Stairmaster and all the posing with Terry Holland's wife or ex-wife.
All the grafting's
ex-wife.
been done.
Yeah, all the grafts done, right? You get to show day. Talk me through show day.
I was absolutely bricking it. So I was backstage there, but it was really weird. Like when you felt like you don't belong anywhere, like all my little quirks and everything that people kind of go, oh God. I kind of walked back there and everyone was doing the same things. And I was like, okay, this is nice. This is like, it feels like going home. This is what I was meant to do. Everyone was just like with their little Tupperwares, with their little bags, and everyone was just there for each other because everyone backstage is tired, everybody's hungry, and everybody just wants to finish their preps. But I don't know, it's a really bizarre feeling.
What was it like when the music comes on and you walk on that stage for the first time?
It's like going home.
You got a stage at home, have you?
Well, I grew up on stages.
Oh yeah, you were a dancer, weren't you?
I was a singer and a musician.
There you go. Sorry, musician. Yeah, sorry. I was joking around. I'm sure you haven't got a stage at home, but I'm sure you'd love one though. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? But that's fascinating though that you said it feels like coming home though, because to some people, I bet they've done it, and some people do it once and then never do it again because I've almost like ticked that box. Because it's like, that was a good experience, but I was shitting myself the whole time. But for you, I've watched your videos back. You do genuinely look like you're enjoying yourself.
I love it.
On stage. So that's amazing, first and foremost. But one thing that surprised me was I asked you what's the culture like? Is it supportive? Because I said, I don't know, I had this perspective that because you're all in competition with one another, that it wouldn't be as potentially supportive, a really supportive environment. However, you made a great point when you said, well, you're almost saying back to me that you're not really in competition with each other, you're in competition with yourself, aren't you? And you've said it's like a family. It
is like a huge family because everybody just wants you to go out there and they want you to do your best. Like, as much as everybody, don't get me wrong, nobody does a prep to not win. The goal is to win, but it's never to compete with each other. Like, I just did a prep with one of my best friends and I loved being on stage with her. I didn't look at her and think, you're my competition. I thought to myself, God, I really hope you place. It would be amazing to be stood next to my friend and see her place.
What was the reaction like from your friends and family?
I think they were in as much shock as I was. Like, I think my mum still brags about it now. She doesn't really like watching me go through prep, but she's first, oh yeah, well, my daughter's a bodybuilder. But
that's nice though. I think that's really nice.
Yeah.
Like,
that she feels.
Everybody was just kind of more like, can you eat this now? Can we go for food now? Can we go and do this now? Because you're just so restricted on prep that you don't get to enjoy the little things in life, like just being able to go make yourself a sandwich. Everything is just meticulous to the gram.
Yeah.
What about your kids?
My kids love it. I mean, at the end of the day, they grew up with a mum that got out of breath putting socks on. Or just doing up my shoes. I couldn't do anything with them. I can remember one time I went to the park with them and I had to say to them, I can't come on the slide with you. I can't go on the swings with you because I couldn't fit on them. Or we'd go to a little fairground and I'd think, it's not worth me risking trying to sit on there. Because I don't want that person saying, I'm sorry, but you're too big for this ride. Like, and I think people forget that element of being big. There are certain things that really push it into you and you think to yourself, I want to go home and eat more now.
Yeah, and I guess
now they've got a mum that can run with them.
Yeah.
I can have a laugh with them. They're not like, because it is like, especially for my daughter, when you've got a mum that's literally carrying a bag full of medication or saying to him, I need to stop because I need to go and take all my medication. That's hard for kids. Whereas now they're like, can we go and do this? Can we go and do that? Like, they love this lifestyle. I don't think they'd ever go back.
I don't think you would either.
No.
If my kids asked me, I'd do anything.
But you wouldn't go back to that lifestyle.
I would never go back to the lifestyle I had. But if my kids turned around to me tomorrow and said, we don't want you bodybuilding anymore, then that's something I'd have to address with them. But currently they love it.
course they do, because of all the bacon.
Yeah, no, it's not even, my kids don't eat it. My
they
kids
not
will
eat it?
literally walk into the house and go, not again.
Yeah, they probably had enough of that by now.
They can't even stand it. Like, just the smell of it, they're like, oh, no.
Let's talk the S-bomb. Steroids. You've never taken them?
No, I'm not currently on them, but I know I'm figure. I know there's going to be a conversation sooner or later about them.
Are you open to taking them?
I mean, when you're backstage with everybody, you can get as much information and first-hand information as you want, because in reality, it is one big family. So if I wanted to know information about it, I have gathered enough good and bad stories from people for when that conversation happens to make an educated decision about it. But I don't think they're this big bad thing that everybody has built them up to be. And I think I built them up to be that way as well. But it's only when you start talking to people and you think, hang on a minute, somebody said to me that everybody on steroids is angry all the time. And then you're like, you're not angry. And you're telling me you're taking this stuff.
I think one of the problems that we sort of discussed briefly, because we had another bodybuilder on, Kaya, I don't know if you ever saw the episode, but we had another bodybuilder on and we talked about steroids. And one of the problems from my perspective is where people get them from. Because are you getting them from reputable sources? And that's where, because there has been, big stories in the papers in the past of people, teenagers dying because they've purchased steroids from, I don't know, someone they know from the
Big
gym.
Steve at the Valleys or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously,
you need to take all of this, and they do, and then
yeah,
and that's where you.
But
I know of somebody who was taking a lot of steroids. Sorry, that's just Diesel in the background coughing his guts up. You taking steroids or what?
he was hinting at you.
Maybe he was. I think he might have been actually. No, but
we tell the truth on this podcast.
He's getting behave yourself, mate. Au natural, you know me. But yeah, he was getting his steroid advice from a coach, an online coach, and that's where I think there can sometimes be issues when you're getting advice from somebody online who you've never met.
They're not a doctor.
No, and you have to ask yourself, how much do these people actually understand about steroids? How much do they actually, what's actually going on? I mean, you might see the after results of significant muscle gain, significant fat loss, whatever. But how much do you really understand about what's going on?
I don't think anybody's got a massive understanding of that. My coach is quite overprotective with us. This season now, I wasn't even allowed to start a prep until she had all my blood results in to make sure I was at the top of my health. But I have met a lot of women that have been with bad coaches, or they have been with coaches that aren't educated, and it has had adverse effects on them.
Well, I also heard another story of a guy who was a bodybuilder, spent a lot of time in his 20s taking steroids, won shows, and comes into his 30s, wants to start a family, and is having significant problems starting a family because of whatever's happened. I mean, I don't understand the science, but whatever's happened down to his steroid use has affected his sperm count. He's now finding it really difficult to start a family. And I think, it's just one of those things that I think you have to take it, like Kaya said, you have to do your own research, and it's on you at the end of the day. If you choose to do that, that's up to you. I think the problem is, though, when you get young, vulnerable individuals, let's say a young 16, 17-year-old lad, maybe, who wants to put a bit of weight on, he's a small guy, and he's getting steroids from Big Steve, and then you fast forward, I don't know, a year, 2 years, and he could be in a really bad place.
That's what I was saying to you. Nobody wants to be patient anymore. They
Definitely.
want instant results. So
Yeah.
I suppose, I think men, for instance, are more likely to seek out a way to get bigger quicker.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think it's a lot easier for men to obtain that.
Oh, it's way more accessible now.
So, but I think like 16, 17-year-olds, there is a lot more of them now just going out there, trying to grab hold of all this stuff.
Big time, yeah.
And it affects them so hugely, just with their mindset, with their attitudes, with everything. Because they can't regulate anything anymore.
Well, we've always said, like, I think we've discussed this on a previous podcast about, like, where your brain doesn't stop developing until you're about 23. So if you're 17, right, you're interfering with that process if you're going on gear.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got, like, we go back to like when we were 17.
Yeah.
It was less accessible. I mean, you could still get it if you did know a Big Steve, right? But it was much harder to obtain. So you would see a lot of 17-year-olds and they'd just be like an average shape, whereas like you go in gyms now, they look like they're 25 and they're 17, and it's like you've been blasting all that, but you haven't looked at like the long-term problems, like you said, like things with not being able to have kids, like erectile dysfunction, like they call it decadic. You've heard of that term?
I've heard of that
Yeah,
term.
like things like that. These are the things that those online coaches aren't telling you, and they're everywhere now because of like things like Instagram. Everyone's trying to make coin off the back of these programs, and like we've all seen the transformation photos, but it's like when you've got a guy who's like 17, really skinny, and then like 6 months later he looks like 25 and he's massive, like we know that's not natural. Do you know what I mean? And we know that these guys can source the gear for them, for their plans, looks better on their page, they get more business, and off you go. Like, you know, that kid's now massive, but like
I think
it doesn't matter, like you're not my problem anymore. Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he could then continue that like addiction. Like some of them will get addicted to it because you get to one size, and then it's like we always said, like when you're that young as well, it's like, oh, and if you're really skinny, you might go, oh, I want to be like a Ronaldo shape, and then when you bulk up to Ronaldo shape, you're like, now I want to be Chris Hemsworth, and you get to that, and it's like now you want to be The Rock or whatever.
Yeah, because you reach a certain point, and I think then body dysmorphia kicks in.
Big time, yeah.
So like they get to that goal size, but
Yeah.
they can't see that they've just hit that goal size.
Exactly, and
So
then
now it needs to go up.
exactly, so they just ramp it up, and then it ends in usually like early death or some real like psychological problems. But does that coach care? No, like you're long gone from there, and he's made his money off you, or she, right? Because everyone's doing it now. And those are the things they never discuss. And it goes back down to, I think, a lack of education around the drug. They don't know the long-term effects of the drug. They know what it does in the short term because they got the transformation pick, right? And that's good for their business. So they know the short term, but they don't really know the long term, most of them, because they're not educated in it. I think...
Well, I also think, I mean, I remember watching Rich Piana's documentary, and he was saying that when he used to go in to see the doctors, they wouldn't really give him any advice because he was like, the doctor was like, you probably know more than me. I don't think, do you know what I mean? With regards to steroid use, it's like, you've been doing it so long, blah, blah, blah. Who am I to tell you what's good or bad?
Yeah. But I think that's coming from, like, you've got the science, right? And then you've got the reality. Yeah. So the science should always be right, but it's not always right, because the steroid will affect you differently to how it affect me or him, right? So the science should say we should all get some kind of similar outcome, but then the reality doesn't. And a lot of these coaches are going off the reality, their experience of, you know, how a client's responded. So like so in Rich Piana's case, the doctor, he is probably like, well, one, he wants his money, like, first of all, right? So, but two, like, he's looking at him and going, right, you've been doing this, well, forever. Like, that guy was massive money.
Huge.
So, like, why would he try and intervene and go and try and lecture him on something he's been smashing in his body? And then is that thing where, like, you know, everyone kind of, like, you should know your own body. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you should, but then I have heard stories where women have, say, gone with a male coach.
Yeah.
And the male coach has taken the same approach with it as they would with a man.
Yeah.
So obviously they've followed the advice their coach has given them, and parts of their body and their voices, it all changes, and they are no longer feminine, and they are extremely masculine because they have been given bad advice.
Do you always Like, is it easy for you to recognise which women are on gear?
It's easy to recognise which women are on, say, the wrong gear. And a lot of them will come to you and say, well, I had a previous bad coaching experience and I was given this instead of this.
Yeah.
And obviously, in reality, private parts do change quite dramatically for some, especially when they're on such a large dose of male hormones.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I think to sum up on that point, it does come down to your own personal choice. And it's interesting that you're open to the idea of doing it. And it seems like you've got a good person steering the ship for you in terms of your coach. I think the point that you make though, Mike, is valid. I think there are the same as whatever field you look at, you're going to get morally questionable people where, you know, the society we live in, greed and money takes over, and you're probably dishing out advice which is not always in the client's best interest. It might well be in your bank balance's best interest. I'm not saying that every coach is like that at all, but it's the same as anything. You get bad doctors.
Every industry.
Yeah, it's every industry.
Driving instructors.
Yeah, driving instructors. Yeah, exactly.
They milk you. Or you're not quite ready for the test.
Yeah.
I got a conservatory
one
to
more
build.
block of lessons.
Yeah. We can have a 10 out of you, I think. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. But I was just interested in terms of what your perspective was on steroids. But to sum up, I think when we were discussing everything backstage, one thing that I found quite interesting was some of the weird fetish requests that you've had.
Right, that is not my fault. These people find me. Right, so I have one man that likes to follow me around because he would like it because he has a lycra fetish, and he would like to know that if I could kick him in the junk if he buys me new Nikes every time.
So he wants you to.
He wants me to kick him in the nuts, wearing lycra, in Nikes because he doesn't like Converse. Sticking to the Converse for 6 reasons.
Just checking if you were wearing Nikes or not, and if they looked new. Right, so he sounds like he's got
what
some
else have we had?
Interesting stuff going on.
You always guarantee at least twice a day there's a message asking if I'll wrestle someone. It's always a man. What else have we had lately?
Why are men so weird?
You tell me.
I don't know.
Well, you're a man. You must know these things.
Well, let's check your hard drive first.
Check your search history.
Well, I haven't been asking anyone to wrestle me or fucking... What was the other thing? I don't want anyone kicking me in the nuts.
I had one man that is very, very well off that wants to pay me to do things with him.
To do... Oh, just sexual things.
So, I might send an email to his complaints department of his company. But it goes on and on and on and on and on. There's no stopping it. Will you arm wrestle me? No.
Well, I suppose it's because you've taken something to the extreme, and like obviously, you know, in your like prep pictures and stuff, you obviously look very muscly, and I suppose.
But not deserving of naked man on a bicycle.
Oh yeah, the naked man.
That was next level.
So what happened in there?
Well, he had dressing going on, and he was riding his bike past me, and he hopped off there and took the dressing gown off, and he was completely starkers underneath.
He was butt naked, right?
Butt naked.
In the middle of the day?
In the middle of the day, it was like 9:30 in the morning. There is something wrong with where I go to the gym. Like that little town.
How do you just keep attracting these people?
I think it's my face, because that's the only common denominator here.
What do you mean?
Well, like, I'm the only common denominator. They're all just magnetized to me. I got one man that wants to paint me.
Paint
you? Yeah, you said
Yeah.
there's one who wants to paint you. But that's not weird though.
Yeah, it is. Can you imagine walking around and just seeing like a massive picture of yourself? Which no doubt somebody would go around and be like, mustache and monocle for you.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
So you get a lot of weird requests from men online.
Oh, yeah.
As you post stuff on TikTok, don't you? You do like TikTok lives and stuff. And do you ever have any weirdos on there?
I never thought I'd see the day where TikTok was the mildest platform to be on.
So where are these weirdos getting hold of you?
Instagram, Facebook, real life.
Oh, yeah, you've had a few real life ones.
Like the best one is when you walk past somewhere and you'll get a message and be like, I can see you. Okay, thank you.
Fucking that creeped me out, that word. That would scare me, that word. What, when you're in the gym, or do you just
Just like if I'm walking around, or if I go for a run, I just seen you run past my house. Okay.
Can you come back?
They're probably timing it. If you're doing that same run each day,
Can you come back?
They're just waiting for you to run by, aren't they?
Can you come back and kick me in the nuts?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh my god. Well, I wish we could give some advice on that, but I don't really know. I mean, it was just more of a fascination to
I
me.
was kind of relying on you for some advice, yeah?
Have you ever messaged?
That's the internet, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a nutshell, it's full of freaks and creatures.
Well, whenever you take things to the extreme, though, you always get like people who get fascinated by it.
Like fetishy, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're like not like you're outside of the norm, so of course, like they're just gonna.
Yeah, because you get like obviously like your feet pics and stuff.
Yeah, we've actually experienced something like a fetishy. Not going to drop names, obviously, but there's a certain someone who goes to our gym and wants to buy our socks.
I've had that one too.
And I've pushed him onto him because I know he would. And you've been thinking about it, haven't you? Selling your socks.
See,
this is about Micheala, this podcast.
I'm just
two
saying,
people in this gym then, right? Because the person who messaged me only likes size 3 to 4 feet. So it's definitely 2 people in that gym.
I haven't got size 3 to 4 feet.
He is keen to buy a sock, sir.
This podcast isn't about me. Let's move back to Micheala, please.
Dodged a bullet.
It's not Nathan under the microscope. So have you sold any socks?
No, I haven't. It took me a long time to
Do you know
build
what
up that
though?
sock
The feet pic thing. I know of women who do make a lot of money selling pictures of their feet. So maybe that could be.
No, because one time I did something really mean, and somebody asked me for a picture of my feet. So I got one of my male friends to take a picture of their hairy feet, and I sent that back to them, and they never messaged back. So
there we go.
What the fuck are they?
Do you know what I mean? There was no payment after that. I sent them a picture of feet.
All right, there you go. You've already found your own solution. So you say yes to the guy about the Nike thing, right? And you say, right, I'm going to show up. Right, you arrange it, and you just get Big Jeff to go down there. Jeff kicks him in the nuts. You never hear off him again. There you go.
True.
We've solved the problem.
That's not problem solving.
Right, anyway, I'm going to put a public request out to all the people who have been requesting to kick them in the nuts, arm wrestler, fucking, what else was it, buy us socks. Just message Mike instead, because he'll probably say yes. All right?
That was weak.
But you didn't deny it though, did you?
No, you're right. There was no denial. You're absolutely right.
I'll tell you the problem for me with the sock selling is that they're requesting specific socks. Like, I'm happy to go down Peacock's, get a pack of 20, yeah, whip them on, whip them off, and sell them. But like when you're requesting expensive socks, I'm not buying Stance socks. They're like £20 a pair. Do you know what I mean?
Whip them on, whip them off. Is it? There we go. Right, if we could, we'll draw the podcast to a close. One thing I would just like you to just kind of give a little bit of advice to is, if there is someone listening who hasn't had their Joe Rogan, Kevin Smith trigger moment, what advice would you give to them in terms of that first journey into the gym?
To be kind to yourself and be patient, because it's really, really hard. It's embarrassing, but that will phase. That will just go away over time. But you have just got to be patient, and you've got to just stick it out. And once you're past that bit, it'll be the best thing you ever did.
Would you say take a friend?
100% take a friend.
Phone a friend. And I think the other thing is try and follow your 30-day rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's always fun. Because it doesn't even have to be fitness. It can be just not having that extra bar of chocolate at night. It can be applied to everything in life. Because after 30 days, you're always going to be that little bit better at something.
For sure.
That's a good point.
I like that. So your next bodybuilding comp, when's that?
15 weeks.
15 weeks. Are you in prep now then, or?
I am in prep.
And how you feeling? You still look happy, bubbly.
I am.
Loving
I love
life.
prep. I was a little bit devastated this week because she never took any carbs off me.
Wow.
I get a little bit excited when she takes carbs off me.
You're a different kind of crazy. You are.
Well, no, because if the food's going down, you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
The next week you're going to see more progress because that little element, as small as it is, it could be one rice cake off.
Yeah.
But it all adds up to the next check-in the next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm going to follow your journey with interest. I'm sure you will as well, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you massively for coming on today to share your journey, because I think there's a lot of snippets of really positive things in there, of like anybody can go and like really fucking change their life in whatever context it is relevant to them. And I just love the fact of how happy you say you are today. And you know, you're not just saying that.
You definitely appear like you can just feel it, can't you?
Yeah,
you know
I can feel. You can feel the positive energy coming from you, and I just think it's because you found what's relevant to you.
Yeah.
You know, to some people, dropping carbs and fish and rice cakes and stairmasters for 3 hours a
for
day.
some people. Yeah,
that's torture, but to you, it's heaven.
It's like a little playground.
yeah.
And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for listening and viewing. And if you give us a like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't already, it'd be hugely appreciated. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.